In 1943, the Panther tank carried one of the war's most formidable guns behind thick, sloped armor. Yet the movement of all 45 tons passed through compact final drive gears beside the front sprockets. If their teeth, bolts, bearings, or housing failed, the engine could roar and the gun could still fire, but the tank could not advance. The real question was not whether one gear could defeat one Panther. It was how the same weakness, repeated across a battalion, could drain its fighting strength before enemy fire did. The Panther emerged from an urgent German answer to the Soviet T-34. German officers wanted a medium tank with sloped armor, wide tracks, strong cross-country performance, and a gun capable of defeating enemy armor at long range. The design selected from MAN promised all of those qualities. That promise quickly grew heavier. The Panther received an 80mm upper front plate and a long, high-velocity 75mm gun. Its production weight reached roughly 45 metric tons, far above the lighter vehicle first imagined during development. The engine produced impressive power, but power alone did not move the tracks. Every turn of the engine had to travel forward through a long drive shaft. The transmission and steering mechanism then divided that power between the left and right tracks. At the end of this chain sat two final drive assemblies, one for each front sprocket. A final drive performs a simple job with severe consequences. Its gears reduce rotational speed and multiply torque before that force reaches the sprocket and pulls the track. This makes a heavy tank move, climb, and turn. It also concentrates enormous loads inside a confined metal housing. The final drive was not the Panther's transmission, although the two are often confused. The transmission selected a gear and passed power into the steering system. The final drives provided the last reduction immediately before the sprockets. A transmission could remain functional while a damaged final drive left one track without dependable power. That distinction matters when reading wartime reports. A unit might praise its gearbox yet complain that Panthers still could not move. The contradiction was real because the failures sat farther down the same power chain. Mechanics had to diagnose which link had broken before commanders could know how quickly a vehicle might return. The Panther used two sets of straight spur gears for this final reduction. They were simpler to manufacture than the more sophisticated planetary arrangement that had been considered. German industry already faced pressure for machine tools, skilled labor, suitable materials, and faster production. The simpler answer helped factories build Panthers, but it left less margin inside the drivetrain. This is where the small gear becomes more than a small part. Gear teeth must meet in precise alignment. Bearings must hold their shafts in place. The housing must resist the pull of the track. Bolts must keep the large gear fixed to its flange. Lubrication must reach every loaded surface. If one element gives way, the load shifts and damage spreads. A loose mounting can disturb alignment. Poor alignment can concentrate pressure on a few teeth. Those teeth can wear, chip, or break. A tank designed to survive heavy fire can then be immobilized by damage hidden behind its own front armor. The first Panther D tanks reached combat before the complete system had matured. Their debut during Operation Citadel in July 1943 exposed a wide group of defects. A contemporary report recorded 20 defective fuel pumps in one battalion by July 8. Another battalion had 12 failed engines, while 5 transmission failures were reported. Those figures matter because they prevent a convenient myth. Kursk was not a single-component disaster. Early Panthers suffered from fuel leaks, fires, engine damage, and other manufacturing or development faults. The final drive belonged to that larger reliability crisis, but it did not cause every breakdown. The surviving reports soon made its particular weakness harder to dismiss. Accounts from the Eastern Front described special bolts shearing inside the final drive. Plugs could work loose and allow oil to escape. Housing fasteners could loosen, while leaks appeared between the final drive cover and the hull. Each fault threatened the same mechanical chain. Lost oil endangered bearings and gear surfaces. Loose fasteners allowed movement where engineers required rigidity. Sheared bolts disconnected a gear that had to carry the Panther's torque. These were not abstract defects. Each one could leave a crew inside a fully armed tank that no longer answered the driver. Terrain made the problem worse. Turning a tracked vehicle does not merely change direction. It changes the speed and resistance of one track relative to the other. Heavy mud, uneven ground, sharp steering, or turning in reverse could send sudden loads through the steering system and final drives. The Panther offered impressive maneuvering possibilities on paper. In practice, drivers had to treat those possibilities with care. Reports warned that steering problems could increase final drive damage and brake wear. Later French operating instructions advised caution when shifting down on slopes, reversing over rough ground, or towing a Panther without first disconnecting the final drives. That placed a battlefield burden on training. An experienced driver could avoid some destructive inputs. A hurriedly trained replacement might not recognize them until metal had already failed. The Panther's mobility therefore depended not only on engineering, but also on driver judgment, maintenance, terrain, and the condition of each individual vehicle. By early 1944, many Panther defects had improved. Better engines, revised components, and experience in the workshops produced longer service lives. One report summarized by Heinz Guderian on March 5 stated that final drive failures had ended in a particular unit. That same report placed engine life between 700 and 1,000 kilometers. It sounded like the problem had been solved. Evidence from another unit delivered a very different answer. Between March 1 and April 15, the 1st Battalion of Panzer Regiment II reported that 13 final drives had been replaced among 30 Panthers. More failed on the left than on the right. The report blamed sheared bolts on the large gear and stated that the assemblies could not withstand steering in reverse through heavy soil. This is the scale hidden inside the title. One broken gear did not freeze an entire battalion at the same moment. The same vulnerable assembly, repeated across dozens of tanks, could remove vehicle after vehicle from service. In that unit, the repair burden reached almost half the number of Panthers on strength in only 6 weeks. The effect spread beyond the disabled tanks. Mechanics needed replacement assemblies, lifting equipment, transport, tools, and time. Recovery vehicles had to pull stranded Panthers away from roads or exposed ground. Every damaged tank occupied a workshop position and consumed parts that another vehicle might soon need. A final drive shortage could therefore create a queue. The first disabled Panther needed an assembly. The next required the same part, while a third waited for transport to the workshop. Cannibalizing a damaged vehicle might return one tank to service, but only by confirming that another would not return soon. German formations tried to protect mechanical life by moving Panthers by rail whenever possible, sometimes over surprisingly short distances. Rail transport conserved engine and drivetrain mileage, but it also tied movement to schedules, loading facilities, intact tracks, and available flat cars. A tactically mobile tank could become operationally dependent on a railway. A battalion commander counted available tanks, not impressive specifications. Some Panthers waited for final drives, while others needed engines or repairs after enemy fire. The formation's striking power could shrink before the next attack. A battalion did not need to lose every tank to become tactically restricted. It only needed to lose the concentrated mass required for its mission. Reports from Normandy show that concern continuing. On June 28, 1944, Guderian noted that Panther engine life had become significantly longer than final drive life. He called for an urgent solution. The timing is important. This was not a complaint confined to the rushed Panther D at Kursk. The Panther A and Panther G incorporated many improvements, and later vehicles were generally more dependable than the first production machines. Yet improvement did not mean uniform success. Factories introduced changes at different times. Units operated under different terrain, maintenance, and supply conditions. A favorable report from one formation could exist beside severe failures in another. During September and October 1944, manufacturers introduced further final drive modifications. These changes answered reports of damaged gear teeth, broken parts, worn bearings, and inadequate lubrication. Stronger housings and better fasteners address some known failure paths. The changes mattered. They show that German engineers and crews did not simply accept the weakness. They identified causes, revised parts, and improved procedures. But wartime production could not pause while an entirely new system was perfected. Earlier Panthers remained in service, and revised parts did not reach every vehicle at once. A more durable planetary final drive never became the standard production solution. The complaints continued into the final months of the war. Minutes from a Panzer Commission meeting on January 23, 1945, discussed serious final drive failures across several German armored vehicle types. The number reported for Panthers was 370. The record does not mean that every failure happened at once or under identical conditions, but it shows that the problem still occupied senior attention. Material quality also requires careful treatment. The popular explanation says that weak German steel alone destroyed Panther gears. British investigators did identify inadequate bearings, weak housings, and insufficient hardening in critical areas of some gears. A wartime industrial shortage could certainly worsen those problems. But a restored Panther later showed that at least some surviving gears were made from strong material. That does not erase the wartime failures. It reveals a more complicated chain involving design load, heat treatment, housing rigidity, fasteners, alignment, lubrication, production variation, and operating stress. There was no single universal defect in every final drive. The most dramatic post-war evidence came from France. French forces operated recovered Panthers after the war and published an assessment in 1947. The report described the final drive as the tank's true weak point and estimated an average fatigue life of only 150 kilometers. It also stated that half the abandoned Panthers examined in Normandy showed evidence of final drive breaks. Those numbers are valuable, but they must be framed correctly. They were French operational conclusions drawn from captured and recovered vehicles, not a guaranteed lifespan for every Panther ever built. The sample included machines with different production histories, mileage, damage, maintenance, and treatment. The figure should expose risk, not become a universal countdown clock. The French report also praised much of the Panther. Its gun was accurate and powerful. Its frontal protection was formidable. Its suspension and wide tracks gave it strong cross-country qualities. Many drivetrain parts, excluding the final drive, approached their intended service life. That balance explains why the Panther debate survives. When a functioning Panther reached a good firing position, it could be extremely dangerous. Allied crews could not ignore its long-range gun or frontal armor. Mechanical weakness did not make the Panther harmless, and later improvements did not make it consistently reliable. The final drive connected those two realities. It stood between tactical power and operational availability. The gun decided what the Panther could destroy. The armor helped decide what could destroy the Panther. The final drive helped decide whether the tank arrived, turned, withdrew, or required recovery. Its location also shaped the human cost of failure. A crew facing a damaged final drive could not repair broken gear teeth with ordinary field adjustments. The vehicle had to be recovered and placed in the hands of trained mechanics. Under retreat, recovery time might disappear. A tank that could have been repaired in a workshop might instead be abandoned and destroyed by its own side. This did not happen to every Panther, in every unit, throughout the war. Early production failures were especially severe. The Panther A and G benefited from accumulated changes. Careful driving and effective maintenance could keep later vehicles operating, and combat readiness improved markedly in some formations during 1944. Yet the final drive problem never became irrelevant. German reports, British engineering conclusions, French experience, and the continuing factory modifications all point to a weakness that outlived the first debut crisis. Its importance changed with version, date, unit, terrain, driver, and maintenance support, but the underlying risk remained. So how could one small gear neutralize a whole group of Panthers? It could not do so like a shell striking every tank at once. It worked through repetition. The same heavily loaded components sat inside every vehicle. Each failure removed a tank, demanded a recovery, consumed a scarce replacement, and added another job to an already strained workshop. Enough separate failures could turn a powerful battalion into a scattered collection of runners and repair cases. The Panther final drive therefore exposes a larger truth about armored warfare. A tank is not only a gun, armor plate, and engine. It is a chain of systems, people, tools, spare parts, and decisions. The battlefield judges the entire chain by its weakest working link. The Panther's small gear could not destroy a battalion. But repeated across a battalion, its failure could stop enough Panthers to change what that battalion was able to do. Arsenal Archives examines the engineering and battlefield realities behind historic war machines. Subscribe for the next documentary.